Today is World Book Day. It's one of the highlights of the academic year, and it was so great going into work this morning and seeing so many children and teachers dressing up as their favourite characters from fiction. It's so important that as a country we are promoting and encouraging a love of reading. What also struck me this morning is how many similar costumes I saw. So there were lots of kind of Gruffalo onesies, loads of Harry Potters walking around, loads of Willy Wonkas. Now obviously we're not saying there's anything wrong with these characters or these books. Anything that gets children excited about reading is really, really great. But one of the common complaints in secondary schools is that primary children aren't reading widely enough, which means that they aren't getting a varied literary diet. An obvious solution to this would be to have schools and parents buy loads more books, but obviously budgets can be really tight. So these are our top 10 books for World Book Day. And the best thing is that every single one of these books on these lists are in public domain, which means that they can be found really cheaply and really easily. Number 1 is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is a great book, and I know that one of the schools that I go into regularly often does this with their Year 6 classes. It's got monsters, it's got mad professors, it's got treachery, it's got everything you'd want in a book. Sticking with our monster theme is our second choice, which is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Slightly more challenging in terms of plot, but definitely well worth getting your kids' teeth stuck into this one. Our third choice is The Wizard of Oz. Obviously this is a fantastic film that I'm sure you've probably seen, and probably the kids have seen it as well. But it's actually a really, really great book as well. And obviously there's a huge range of different characters, which would be great to get dressed up for on World Book Day. Our fourth choice is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Obviously pirates are a very popular dress-up choice, so why not introduce your class to one of the most famous pirates of all time, Long John Silver. Our fifth choice is A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Obviously Shakespeare can be a bit off-putting, some of the language can be quite complicated, so you can get a modernised version or a simplified version for your class. But I think this story is one of Shakespeare's greatest ones. It's got a huge range of characters and it's a great way to get your class introduced to the bard himself. Number 6 is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Obviously you're probably aware of the musical, maybe putting some of the music on would be a great way of introducing your class to this book, but it's one of our favourite choices. It's an instant classic, it is fantastic. Number 7 is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He's one of the greatest detectives of all time. Your class most definitely will have heard of him. You have to be selective in which cases and which books that you want to introduce to your class, but the great thing is that there is a huge range of different stories about that character. Number 8 is Peter Pan by J M Barrie. Again, your class are probably more familiar with the pantomime story, but it is a really, really interesting book in itself, and it's a great way to introduce your class to Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital as well. Number 9 is one of my personal favourites. It's Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. This is an adventure story, and it also can help your class with their creative writing, and it also ties in with your geography topic, whatever you're doing. It's a great way of combining these two subjects together and getting your class interested in reading. Our final choice is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Your class are probably familiar with the Disney film of it, but the book itself is actually full of really quirky poetry, and it's just a whole lot of fun with some really, really interesting and diverse characters in it. Before we finish, it's probably worth mentioning that a lot of these books are probably a bit more challenging than what you would expect in primary schools, but I don't think that should put you off. I think it's really important to challenge children when they are reading. Also, it's worth mentioning that all of these books have different versions written of them. There are some modernised versions, some simplified versions, so you can pick the one that suits your class best. It's also a really good way of introducing reading in the family as well, so all of these books have probably been read by the parents, or the parents are aware of them, so it's a great way of getting the parents involved with the reading as well. We really hope you enjoy getting stuck into these timeless classics.